Join me as I take on the challenge of breaking free from that nagging feeling of never being good enough, using some proven strategies that I'm ready to test out. Feeling inadequate is an epidemic that's sweeping the nation, and it's not just you who's experiencing it. Everyone from stay-at-home parents to high-flying CEOs, from students to retirees, is grappling with the overwhelming sense of not being good enough. And then there's the challenge of negative self-talk. We beat ourselves up over the smallest mistakes, and we focus on our weaknesses rather than our strengths. It's like we have a constant inner critic who's always whispering in our ear, telling us that we're not good enough. But despite all these challenges, the biggest one of all is the fact that we often feel like we're alone in our struggles. We think that everyone else has their life together, and that we're the only ones who are struggling. But the truth is, everyone struggles with feelings of inadequacy at some point or another. Self-compassion is also crucial in breaking free from feelings of inadequacy. It's about treating ourselves with kindness, understanding, and patience. We need to learn to be gentle with ourselves, to acknowledge our imperfections, and to focus on our strengths rather than our weaknesses. I want to share a personal story that I think illustrates the effectiveness of these strategies in overcoming feelings of inadequacy. I used to struggle with feelings of not being good enough, especially when it came to my career. I would compare myself to others, and I would feel like I was falling short. But one day, I realized that I had a choice. I could continue to wallow in self-doubt and negativity, or I could start working on myself. I started practicing cognitive reframing, self-compassion, and setting realistic goals. And you know what? It worked. I started to feel more confident, more capable, and more worthy. I want to leave you with the idea that feeling not good enough can be overcome. It takes work, it takes patience, and it takes practice, but it's possible. Remember, you are enough, and you deserve to live a life that's free from feelings of inadequacy. Feeling like you're never good enough is a complex and painful experience that can deeply affect how you see yourself, your relationships, and your life overall. It's rooted in self-doubt and the belief that no matter what you do, it's never sufficient to meet your own or others' expectations. Here's a full explanation of why this might happen and how it manifests. 1. Sources of the feeling. Childhood experiences. If you grew up in an environment where love, approval, or praise was conditional, you might internalize the belief that you're only worthy if you meet certain standards. Parents or caregivers who set high expectations or were overly critical can contribute to this. Perfectionists often feel inadequate because their standards are unrealistically high. Even when they achieve something, they focus on what could have been better rather than acknowledging their successes. Comparisons to others. In today's world, social media often magnifies the issue. Comparing yourself to curated images of other people's lives can create the illusion that everyone else is more successful, attractive, or happier, leaving you feeling inferior. Past failures or rejections. Repeated failures or rejections in life, whether in relationships, career, or personal goals, can reinforce a narrative of not being good enough, making it hard to believe in your own abilities. 2. How it manifests. Negative self-talk. You constantly criticize yourself, thinking you're not smart enough, attractive enough, or successful enough. This inner dialogue can become a harsh cycle of self-judgment. Avoiding risks. When you doubt your abilities, you may avoid challenges or opportunities for fear of failing and proving your belief of inadequacy right. Overworking or overcompensating. In an attempt to prove your worth, you might overwork, push yourself to exhaustion, or set impossible goals for yourself. 3. Emotional impact. Anxiety. Feeling inadequate can cause constant worry, as you fear being found out as not good enough, whether in your job, relationships, or personal life. Depression. Over time, the constant sense of falling short can lead to feelings of hopelessness or despair, which are key components of depression. Low self-esteem. This sense of not being good enough is often closely tied to low self-esteem, where your self-worth feels tied to external success or others' opinions rather than an internal sense of value. 4. Coping strategies. Cognitive restructuring. One way to begin overcoming these feelings is by challenging your negative thoughts. When you think I'm not good enough, ask yourself, is this fact or just a feeling? Learning to recognize and shift these thoughts is part of cognitive behavioral therapy. Set realistic expectations. Learn to set achievable goals and celebrate small victories. Trying to meet impossible standards sets you up for failure. Mindfulness. This can help you stay present, rather than getting caught in cycles of regret about the past or anxiety about the future. Mindfulness practices help ground you in the moment and appreciate where you are. Conclusion. Feeling like you're never good enough can be an exhausting, painful experience, but it's also something that can be worked on. By understanding where these feelings come from and taking steps to challenge them, you can begin to rebuild a sense of worth that's not tied to perfection, others' approval, or unrealistic standards. Healing takes time, but with self-compassion and support, it's possible to shift this narrative.